Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, I'll be going through the trade targets for round, are we up to 22? I believe we're up to 22. Let me just double check this off looking at, yes, we're up to round 22 of the AFL fantasy season. This one will, because we've gotten rid of the cash cows segment of a video, I will be touching a little bit on the rookies, but I honestly don't think they matter too much at this point because I don't see these rookies popping out for those like 110 scores. At least they could, but I don't see it. I think you're more likely to get that maybe out of a mid-pricer or something like that. For instance, a Peatling or a Philippou, which we'll touch on, rather than like for instance an Archie Roberts. So I don't think they have too much relevance. But if you just wanted a guy that it's, for instance, you have like a show and maker and you just want to get him down to like a Roberts or something like that, just to get a guy on field. Sorry, not on field, on the bench that's actually playing and has the potential to score. I think that's an obvious route for you. But if you need, especially for a lot of us, that sort of assurance off the bench, I would be going for more the mid-pricer route, as it's not as dangerous now that they're playing on your bench rather than on field, and two, it's only 2 or 3 rounds, so you're just looking for that. I think not necessarily 3 spike scores out of 3, but I reckon just even 1 spike score in the last 3 rounds of the year is going to be really beneficial. So anyway, let's just jump into this video. And Philippou is the #1 traded in guy, and rightfully so. At the moment, he is the guy that I'm most likely going to be traded in. But there are some permutations with that I'll get into in the Thursday or Friday. We're in Thursday now, so Friday team reveal video in which I'll go through those permutations. But yeah, I think Philippou is a massive option. He's got Richmond. If we go to not that one, we go to this one. This is last 5, and this is a chart that I'll be looking at massively because I think it's a lot more of a chart that's going to give you better results than just looking at the plus and minus for different guys, because they genuinely have different roles, etc. The roles aren't specific, whereas I think this marries up a lot better to the opposition against and the actual player role. You can marry it up a lot better, like we saw with Nick Newman. You can marry that up a lot better to Collingwood being able to gift him scores than the likes of than what was actually seen by, I think, some other people's points. So I think it was. I think this is a lot better of a tool. So he's got Richmond. And if we go here, Richmond, 51 and 37. So that's pretty good. Let's go to St Kilda. And for Philippou, I think we're going to actually have to go into the actual... because if we go here... Philippou, King, where's Philippou? Where is he? I'm just missing him because he's in the pack here somewhere. Where is he? Philippou, here we go. We go here, we open up Philippou's tab. What is his score sources? You'll see here 52, 28 here. So he scores a lot, obviously, in the stoppage. But one thing I do like is that he is scoring from turnovers as well, which is a good sign as well for a high turnover team. He's playing Richmond that are pretty much positive across all lines, high in centre bounce and high in trend, in throw-in. And we go here back to Philippou. You'll see he's always pretty high in throw-in and pretty high in centre bounce scoring, as well as all right in the transition in turnovers. So that's one thing that I really like with Philippou. So I genuinely think this is a really good selection. I think it's the obvious one. And for me, as you'll see on Friday, there's a big chance that I'll grab him. But I can sort of play the loophole trade in almost, in a way. I'll put it like that. Let's go back to Archie Roberts. And I think this one, Archie plays Gold Coast. I actually really like this trade in if you need to get a guy just on the bench who can score well. I think Archie Roberts has a really, really positive matchup. If we go to fantasy scoring, we go to Gold Coast, 99 and 65. So they're very, very conceding heavily. So I think that's a matchup for Desi kickers that you can actually really target now. And if we go to Essendon, we go down here. I can actually get rid of you and get rid of you. And you'll see this as well. I know that I don't use this tool as much anymore. But if we go to Gold Coast, That's last 10. If we go to last 5, I think it'll be more inclusive of what I'm trying to say here. You'll see Gold Coast plus 13.13. So I think that lines up with what I'm trying to say here. And if we go to... So I think Nick Martin... This is the worrying thing. If we go to actually Nick Martin's thing here... and you see here, he's always really high on the turnover, as well as Gold Coast being one of the easier matchups. So it'll definitely be an interesting watch, this one here, because I think Nick Martin, even though people are probably going to be trading him out, if we look here at the trade outs here, where is he? He's down here at 2.7k trade outs. I think he generally actually scores well. I think there's a chance that Nick Martin goes off here against Gold Coast if he is in that halfback slot. If we just go to Nick Martin in general, if I just go here, I can use this as well. I just want to see what's his role been, because I don't know if he's been moved more. I think he's been moved more up the ground, which is why he's sort of lost a little bit of his scoring ability. So I just want to check that, because if he hasn't really moved, he's moved somewhat, but I wouldn't say it's a massive move either. So yeah, I'm still, obviously he's had less kickouts than he was having earlier in the year, but I just genuinely think he's going to have a bounce back game this week. If we look at the season long, and then we go to designated kickers, and then we go to here, you'll see that Essendon have a 0.15, and they've got Gold Coast, Sydney, Brisbane. Nick Martin might be the guy that you move on in the last round because he's got Brisbane, but I still think he's a really positive matchup these next couple weeks, just based off of this here, given that he's got Gold Coast and Sydney, and both of them are giving up a lot of transition points and turnover points. So I think that Nick Martin's one that I would rather hold, because he's got that really high ceiling, as we've seen before. If we just go to, does this show Nick Martin? Let me just bring up Nick Martin here. We see here Nick Martin match stats. His lowest score of the year is 79. So are you really... but he's got... And this is much similar to Hayden Young. And to a certain degree. But I think he's got that higher ceiling that Hayden Young doesn't necessarily have. And he's put out two 120 scores and two 140 scores. So I think you are pushing it to try and go against that, especially when it's looking awfully similar that he could have a game similar to that St Kilda game where he just goes off. So yeah, I would be intrigued to see how it goes this week, but I wouldn't be going off of him. Rowan Marshall, I think this is a really good trade-in. You've got a Richmond here that is facing up against, and if it's kind of hard to see the ruckman, to see how they sort of go up against. So let me just check. Richmond, where have we got here? 20, so he's done that. If we go to St Kilda, is this going to have St Kilda? What's this got? That's got Nick Martin, that's got that. If we go to here, because I think this is almost as good a thing, you got Richmond at plus 20.78. I think that's a pretty good indication. If you look at the matchups here, you've got, what have we got? Briggs, Jackson. I mean, Jackson was solo rucking that game, but he's still a plus 26. You got Tristan Cherry going off in that game, and Kieran Briggs. So you got two ruckmen that have really pounded it in. So I think that still is a pretty good matchup. If we go to St Kilda, here we go, and then we go to Rowan Marshall numbers. He's pretty much strong across the board, but he's coming up against a side that's really strong in all these scoring areas. But I just don't know how that correlates necessarily, because he's a ruckman, and it feels like it shouldn't correlate as much with ruckman scores. So I don't know how to judge that necessarily yet, given that a ruckman I feel like should be different than that. But I still feel like Rowan Marshall is going to be the number one ruck for the run in here, because he's got Richmond, Geelong, and Carlton. And if we look here at this, Richmond, Geelong, and Carlton are generating a plus very, very quickly, I would think. Darcy Cameron went -1. That's surprising. Kieran Briggs went 136. Tim English. But we've seen if Kieran Briggs went 140, 136, I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Tristan Cherry went 124, which is well above. I don't get this plus minus here because Tristan Cherry isn't averaging. Let me actually bring that up a little bit. Sorry, I would have covered it in the last one. But yeah, you can see pretty strong scores across the board. So I think that Marshall has a really good run for the last 3 games. Sinclair, I think let's just look at that again. Again, another Richmond one. Transition and kick in. If we go to team scores, we go to transition. He's actually second to the likes of Wanganeen Malira, which is quite an awkward one because Wanganeen Malira, I think, might actually be one of the trade outs this week. Let me just see. Is Wanganeen Malira up here at all? Not really, actually, so that's a good thing. Let's actually just check. Wanganeen Malira in 180, which is actually a positive trade-in. But yeah, I do like Sinclair. He is running on top of the ground at the moment with a 105 last 5 and a 115 last 3. Has Richmond, Geelong and Carlton. Let's look at the run home for that. Richmond, pretty good. Geelong is all right, but then again, it's not the greatest for the role that that the likes of Sinclair has, and then Carlton is it's pretty shocking for Carlton. So maybe I wouldn't necessarily go there with Sinclair, just because I don't know about that last 3 run with him, but he is tearing it up at the moment. So maybe you do go there and worry about it later. So yeah, I'm worried about Sinclair in rounds 23 and 24, and I don't know whether you can actually bring him in for those rounds necessarily. Peatling, I brought him in. He's got a tough matchup this week against Brisbane. If we just go to Peatling, Brisbane are the worst for transition and kick-ins. All right for kick-ins, all right for throw-ins, and pretty much everything else is bad. And then we just go to where is it? GWS, and I know his will be tainted by the likes of having the sub game. So let me just go to Peatling. I saw him. I swear. Where did I see him? I swear I saw him. Peatling anywhere? Where is he? Thomas. Callahan. Nope. Let me just. You know what? Times. There we go. That was a lot easier to do it that way. Here we go. And did that update or anything? Here we go. So 48, he just gets a wide range of numbers here, and you can see the actual good thing. And yes, he is high on transition. When he does play in that midfield role, you can see basically that he puts up really big numbers when he's in that. But I do like he's very, very high every single week, it seems like, in the throw-in as well, which I don't know if that's a replicable stat. But he seems to be able to score nicely with just the without the turnovers necessarily, which is a good thing as well. There's a couple problems with this, and that is that Canelio and also Kelly are projected to be back this week. So I just want to check, how did Tom Powell do? He went 116 again. What was his role? I'm getting off track here, but I just wanted to check something because I think it will be able to be used as something against Peatling here. If we look at that, that was that horrific role. He had 37% CBAs, two kickouts. Powell could actually be a really good option. Not even going to lie. He's a really good scorer when he gets a good role. And that's his best points per minute in a while. In basically since back when we were talking about him in rounds 2 and 3. So I think the more safe option is probably going Powell over Peatling, just because I feel like Powell's could have that halfback role. But then again, you're also talking about Powell with potentially Fisher coming back, but do they rate Powell over Fisher is the big thing, given that Powell did have a disposal efficiency of 100% on 21 touches and he had 79% on 34 touches. So he's just putting up absolutely huge numbers. So I would probably go Powell over Peatling, just because I think Peatling could easily drop to the sub role, whereas I think Powell, he has other roles in the team where he may not score the greatest, but at least he won't be the sub, and he has the chance to go like 80 plus. Tristan Chariot, I understand this as well. The ruck position, oopsie, not that. Does that go back to what I want it to be? No, not really. Go to coach's choice in. There we go. If we go to Tristan Sherry, we go to fantasy score. No, we want not that anymore really. We want here, he's got a West Coast Eagles. If you actually look at it, West Coast are a plus 2.7 in their last 5. And if we look at that, it's got Jared Witzer 141, which was huge. Sean Darcy an 88. It had a Rowan Marshall 118. And an Oscar McInerney 98, and then a Max Gorn 71, where he was on track for about a 110 or a 105 maybe if he wasn't injured. In that game, I believe that was the injury game for him. So I don't expect Sherry to go absolutely huge, but then again, he's proven me wrong every single time. So watch him do that. But I think he's more going to go 120, whereas I think the likelihood is that, and if we look at his last matchups for the year, he's got Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn. If we look at that for Rucks, Hawthorn are up there and Western Bulldogs are also up there. I just honestly like the matchup, or I just like Marshall's matchups a lot more than Tristan Cherry, so that's why I'll probably go down that route and sorting my Rucks out. But he does definitely have some very friendly matchups. Johnson, what did he do? Exactly 42. I mean, he's just a guy that's playing, so I don't think I'd go there, to be honest with you. Powell, we talked about Nick Newman. How has his run opened up in the last couple of weeks? In the last week since we noticed that. So he's got Hawthorn, West Coast, and St Kilda. If we go here, Hawthorn, minus 28. I swear that's gotten better. I don't know exactly if that's gotten better, but I swear it's gotten better. As I swear it was like a minus 45. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's definitely gotten more into Nick Newman's favor. Then he has, as we said, West Coast. If we go over here, West Coast Eagles for last 5. They're still in a pretty good spot there for him. And then he has, is it St Kilda? St Kilda as well. They are, where are they? They're here. So they've already started to, I think, turn around. I swear that they were maybe a little bit negative. So I think it actually is turning around for him, like for Nick Newman. And I don't, so we'll monitor it, but I think there are more matchup based that you can go with Nick Newman rather than reacting to his score. But I'm not one that's just gonna. It's tough to say, but he's got Hawthorn this week, I think. Hawthorn this week. I probably wouldn't be jumping on just because he's got Hawthorn this week, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he goes large against Hawthorn. If we go to Nick Newman here, what did he do last time against Hawthorn, or has he played them this year? He hasn't played them this year. What does he average against them? 83. But yeah, I would be most likely probably jumping on again against the Eagles rather than this week against the Hawks. Treloar, he's just an absolute gun and he's taking the piss at this point, simply put. He's got Adelaide North and also, who else? Adelaide North GWS. Adelaide, minus 59, don't like that. North, plus 43, and then GWS are also minus 25, and I'm led to believe that's where he scores a lot of his points from. If I get rid of you, not really needed too much. I go down to you here, 1 second. Let me open this up. What's he averaging here? Turnovers. So he's really high on, actually across the board in the 3 stoppage categories and the turnovers. He does pretty well. So let's just check those matchups again. Adelaide North GWS. Adelaide North GWS. Adelaide, I don't like it how this turnover statistic is here in this minus 59, but he does score pretty well in these categories. I just think with looking at that scoring, half of his scoring comes from turnovers, and these are a very restrictive turnover side, so I wouldn't be going there. Then he's got North Melbourne here. I don't mind it as much. Kick-in doesn't really matter to him. Turnovers, that's pretty good. Ball-ups and throw-ins, not the greatest. And so I don't mind it as much for the North one. And then he's got, GWS in the final round. GWS, I don't like that matchup either. So, overall, the whole thing. So I wouldn't be going there for Adam Treloar. Max Gawn, I just think this is a cheap way of getting a ruck in. I don't necessarily agree with it too much because Brodie Grundy did struggle with Port. As we look here at this, Port Adelaide are there at a -4. Then he's got Collingwood and Gold Coast and Collingwood. Gold Coast, Collingwood are a -12, and then Gold Coast are a -3. So he's got 3 poor matchups. Even though it's Max Gawn, I still wouldn't trust that necessarily. He might be one that I go for next week if he's able to still score a 130, and I'm like, he's still going to score well. It's going to be an underpriced matchup. Like, he's 883k. He's probably going to be 890k if he scores really well, like a 130 again. Like, I can just go there, save some coin, and do a better flip or something. Dylan Moore, I don't think I like this matchup. He's got Carlton here. Where is Carlton? Carlton -67, and let's go to the likes of Hawthorn, because I think most players will predominantly score off the turnover. But I could be wrong about that with the likes of... Have I just missed him? Dylan Moore, here he is. As you can see here, 52 points out of his 80 odd or so. What's that? 56, 64, 76, 87, 88, I think he's averaging. And he's got 52.8. That's 60%, if not a little bit more. 60% of his score coming from one avenue, and he's facing a negative team in that avenue. I just do not think you can go there. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. I'm still backing in Dylan Moore to do well, but I wouldn't... Here's the thing. I'm going to back him in to play on field, but I'm not going to back him in to would be trading him in if I didn't have him. So that's my reasoning behind that. Bontempelli, the last guy we'll go through, has Adelaide. And you can follow a similar trend with what I was doing with the likes of Treloar, is that I don't necessarily like that matchup as much. You can see pretty much he's 0.4 behind there, he's 1.4 behind there, he's 0.3 ahead there, he's 2.2 behind there, and he's 1.4 behind Treloar in that category. If we scroll up a little bit, you can see it now clearly. I keep on forgetting that my my camera covers that. But he basically matches Treloar step for step in pretty much every category within a margin that is acceptable. So I would follow the same principle as I would say with Treloar that I would say with Bontempelli. Even though I'm pretty sure Bont probably has really good stats against these teams, I just do not. 106, 103, 92. Look at that. I just don't like that in general. And as many fancy YouTubers have said, weird stuff happens at Mars. So I wouldn't want many Western Bulldogs players playing in that final round against GWS. And then that's pretty much all the rookies. How's Lockie Whitfield going to go? He's got Brisbane. Brisbane, because... Where's Brisbane? Brisbane, this could be a horrific matchup for Lockie Whitfield, so I wouldn't be touching that. Honestly, he may get a tag, he may not, but he may do well. Let's actually just double check this with respect to a GWS. Here we go. I just want to check Whitfield's probably 65 points in turnovers, 59 and 30 in kick-ins. So he's got a majority in kick-ins. So he's probably going to do well or manageable, because the kick-ins, Brisbane are 4th highest. But I just do not like this -105 turnover points in transition. It's going to be hard for him to... I think they're going to put pressure on there. And you can see that's pretty much the trend throughout. He will get a lot of points from Brisbane missing from getting a multitude of shots. But I just don't know if he'll get the kickabout that he got against Hawthorn. Hawthorn didn't mark him up, so he got the kickabout with Hawthorn. But to a certain extent, Hawthorn have this minus 28, minus 29, and he still did really, really well. Let's look at this. Let's look at this quickly here. I'm trying not to go over, but I'm going to be going, this is going to be a 30-minute episode. 85 and 20 and 39. He's been pretty much above 50 for the last 6 in all of his big scores. You can see here that transition does get a lot of his points. So I just have a feeling, has he played Brisbane this year? He played Brisbane for a 105, got a 54-24. So I don't think I'd be confident in trading him in this week. What's he got next week? Who's he got next week? He's got Fremantle and Western Bulldogs. If we go to, where is it? Not there. It's here, Fremantle. Where are they? they're almost the same boat. And then he's got Western Bulldogs, and they're almost the same. It's three teams that choke you as a defender, but then also allow scores off kick-ins because they score heavily. So, yeah, I just don't know if I'd go to Whitfield. I don't know if I'd like the matchup anyway. If we go to here just to try and confirm that, let's actually just check. Western Bulldogs actually pretty good for Desi kickers. And what about for a Fremantle? Fremantle down here at minus 0.28. And then you've got Brisbane at minus, what was that, 3 or so, give or take? Minus 3.22. So it'll be interesting. I probably wouldn't touch it because he's got the Brisbane and then leading into the Fremantle. You may touch it the last round against Western Bulldogs if those sort of statistics turn around a little bit. If transitions more towards neutral or even positive in that space of time, that they can turn it around that quickly. But I also don't know if the Western Bulldogs one is massively changed by the Swans game, which they were just taking intercept after intercept, and I think they had a lot more turnover. So I don't know how necessarily flawed that is. Let me actually see. Can I go to Western Bulldogs and see fixtures? Were they massively up against Sydney? Yeah, you can see Geelong and Sydney, 2 games that they won. They were massively up. Like, you can see the change in Sydney. They were 50 points different. So, maybe I would wait on that just to see how that calms down. But you won't really get a reaction out of that too much. Let's actually just check Sydney because they were at 1,000 points or so on turnovers. They got a 150 split off that. Or something done, if I'm reading that right. I don't know exactly, but I think I'm reading that right. So yeah, that's 150 is a huge one. And then against Geelong, let's actually check Geelong's statistics in that game. They got a plus 300. So in those 2 wins, they got plus 450 on that. So that'll be a big watch in the next week or so. Because also in that Western Bulldogs game, you don't know who's going to be... They sort of respond. And really, if they win games, they're very restrictive in that category. But if they lose it, it seems like they're not. So you almost have to go, is he going to be a favourite in that? But I do. And then you also have to think, is he going to get a tag or whatnot? So I just don't like that necessarily, that matchup. And that pretty much gives us to the end of those guys. Let's just go through the outs quickly. Dowling, Evans, yep, understand that. Brodie Grundy or English, this is a decision I'm deciding at the moment. I think I'm going to lean more towards getting rid of Brodie Grundy because he's got the double ruck matchup, and I think Tim English can dominate O'Brien around the ground. Lawson Humphries, understand this. I'm keeping him just because he's got a top-out score potential, and he did play Adelaide for a 71, so like 70s are all right. And then he's got, Freo, St Kilda, and the likes of the Eagles. I'm pretty sure those are, at least the Eagles is an alright scoring one. So that'll be interesting if he plays kickabout in the last round. Myers, understand that. Nick Martin, I think I would hold on for another week just because of those point scoring methods of the transition and turnover, are a lot in favour of Nick Martin. Sean Manor, I kind of understand this. He's done his thing and he's got a 26.45 break even, so he's there or thereabouts. I'll probably just keep him in case he has a spike game. But I'm not really expecting much from him, to be honest. Luke Jackson, I got rid of him finally. Ari Schoenmaker, understand that as well. I think he's still on my side, just because some people are hitting the end of their lifespan and could start losing money, whereas Ari Schoenmaker isn't. Will Day, not scoring enough. Max Holmes, an interesting one as well. I haven't really looked at the matchups, but still okay. And Jordan Clark, Isaac Heaney getting traded out by a couple. I think he could. I think he's going to need to respond in the next little bit, given how shocking this one's been. And yeah, but he is looking a little bit tired. So we'll see at Team News what they go with. If they do introduce another midfielder, then that will be an interesting thing to look at. But the thing is, it's not like he is averaging 84 and 87 in his last 3 and 5, which isn't even that bad. So I think there's more pressing issues, especially in the midfield and the back line, where you can get these really big scores, where I don't know these forward options that have sort of part-time roles, etc., you can get much better scoring, if you get what I mean. So, and I also think he responds against Collingwood. Hopefully they won't send any tag or anything, as I think he might have got tagged in the Port game. So I think he's gotten through some tags as well, which is a good thing. So it will be interesting if Durham or someone goes, or Caldwell goes to him in the Essendon game, because he did torch them last time. But he's coming up against this run here where he scored 125, 117, and then he has Adelaide in the last game of the season where he scored 125. So he's coming up against teams where he scored 250, 367 average, 122 in games against these three. So we'll see how he goes. But anyway, that pretty much is the video. A very, very long video going through all of the trade in targets and trade out targets, I think. Covering also the rookies to a certain extent, and encapsulating the cash cows video, and putting it sort of in this video without having it a standalone. But that is the video. If you did enjoy, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you don't miss a new upload, especially with my AFLW first team reveal coming out in a couple of hours. Which will probably be a mess, but there'll be definitely very many versions of that as I go through and fix it, tinker it, as I learn more and catch up with my knowledge of AFLW. But I'll see you guys in that video. Bye, guys.